For those who are politically wise, a show about the lives of Christians in Ohio involved with politics. Introducing your host, Reverend Thomas Wise.
Greetings, my fellow patriots, saints, and sinners. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. At the end of the show, there will be a blessing. Don't miss it. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Next time you're thinking about beating the train, think again. It takes a typical freight train traveling 50 miles an hour, 1.5 miles to stop. That's nearly 18 football fields. Don't try to beat the train. Ohio's roads can be highways or dieways. The choice is yours. A message from Operation Lifesaver and this station.
The opinions and statements on this show belong to those who give them. The rest of the show belongs to Thomas Wise Words, all rights reserved. Do you pray for a politician? Do you think a politician can be a Christian? Do you think a politician should stand up for Christian principles? Do you think politicians should pray together? Do you want to see more Christians in politics? If you said yes to any of these questions, please join the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network. Find the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network on Facebook. Welcome back to Politically Wise. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Thank you for meeting with me. I'm Reverend Thomas Wise. The show is called Politically Wise, and I'm interviewing in his office Senator Cliff Hite. Cliff, tell my listeners about yourself.
Well, I'm 58 years old. And for this purpose, I can tell you I was born into a Christian home, went to church all my life. I had the greatest mom and dad ever. I'm sure most people will tell you that. And most people will tell you their mother was a saint. She died when I was 27, but she was the best soprano in our choir at church and the strongest Christian leader I think I ever met. I think she was as good as it gets. Great, strong role model for our family. Very important. She was the glue. And Dad was the cerebral one. He always had the philosophical views of things. In fact, after Mom died, he went to the Presbyterian church because he said it was more intellectually challenging for him. I always found that interesting. But anyway, good people. I had 3 older sisters. I've lost 2 of them with cancer, and one was a byproduct of the flu. It was strange. But anyway, I have a wife, 3 children, ages 32, 30, and 28, 2 grandchildren, and 2 more grandchildren on the way. And as you know, there's nothing in the world as good as grandchildren. People will tell you that it's great. It's better than anything I've ever experienced in my entire life. It's the absolute best.
Okay, and so what part of the world are you from?
Oh, I'm from Findlay, Ohio. I taught for 30 years, mostly government and history, and I was a coach, mostly football, a little bit of track, 1 year swimming, a lot of baseball, but almost always football.
And so you started in the house here?
I was elected in the fall of 2006 and got sworn in January of 2007, and I was elected 3 times to the House. But immediately after the 3rd election, I got appointed to the Senate. So this is my 3rd year over here in the Senate.
How did you get started in politics?
Listening to my mom and dad, my sisters at the dinner table. It ended up in my family that actually 2 of my 3 sisters were Democrats, which I didn't know at the time. My mom and dad were Republicans. My other sister was a Republican. So we had a lot of debates at the dinner table growing up, and it was kind of fun. And I enjoyed the debate process. I didn't like studying the structure of government as I enjoyed the politics of it, the discussions and the bantering. And the fact that you can still love somebody even though you're not of the same party, it was like bizarre. I mean, I love my 2 sisters that were Democrats. They were just of the other party. And so I learned, I think, a valuable lesson that you can disagree with somebody, but you don't have to hate them, or you don't have to, shun them or run away from them. Listen to them, and maybe you can expand on your own thought process a little bit.
So your first political office was?
Probably trying to be an arbitrator between my sisters. But my first real official political job, as far as people would look at it, would be the House of Representatives. But it's a very political job when you're a coach and a teacher. And I used to be an umpire, so I said I was in training for this for a long time.
And we will be right back after the break.
To some people, they're just a pet, a dog or a cat. But to you, they're part of your family. They've shared your lives, provided companionship, and given unconditional love. And just like when a human family member passes on, you want your four-legged family members to be treated with dignity. Baker, Hazel, and Snyder Funeral Home and Crematory has been caring for families since 1941 and now offers the same level of service for your pets at Snyder Pet Crematory. Call 274-1151. 274-1151.
Do you pray for a politician? Do you think a politician can be a Christian? Do you think a politician should stand up for Christian principles? Do you think politicians should pray together? Do you want to see more Christians in politics? If you said yes to any of these questions, please join the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network. Find the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network on Facebook. Welcome back to Politically Wise. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Tell me about your faith. So you grew up in a Christian home.
I think that my faith has been one of strength through, I believe, camaraderie with others. I think that through Sunday schools and cell groups, and of course church activities themselves, has provided me a network of support and accountability that I think is extremely important in the Christian faith. Fellowship is so much a part of what I'm about, and I love people, and it just naturally flows in that way. My mother was that way, my dad was that way, and so I think that is the power of the church itself, is really this small group ministry I'm involved with at my church is just fantastic. I mean, we get together twice a month. We study the Bible and different aspects. It's led by our own pastor in our particular cell group, which makes it really interesting, because what we do is we take notes during the sermon and then we analyze it then right after that. And it's real interesting to see where he got his stories from the Bible. And so you you want to read and keep up with things, but you listen better during the sermons too. I found out it's kind of a nice little knack on his part, but it works, and I've always enjoyed him anyway. But it's I'm a Methodist, and I've always I was a Baptist in Kentucky because it was the only church in town. I lived in a town of 400 people, and I jokingly once said I didn't know there were 27 verses of Just As I Am, because we weren't leaving until somebody came forward every Sunday, and it was kind of funny because I was hungry. I was a kid. I was a young guy. I wanted to eat, but it was a very nice place. Brother Richard was his name. It was a really nice church in little tiny Bergen, Kentucky, and I really enjoyed that church too. But then when I came back home, I went back to my home church, which was a Methodist church.
So how does your faith play a role in your work here? How do you make a decision? I mean, I'll leave that open to any way you want to answer that.
I think that based on my Christian values that my mother taught me about trying to get along with everybody, and you don't have to necessarily agree with them, but treat them with respect, has helped me develop a relationship with everybody that's here in the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle. I'm good friends with everybody here. I one time mentioned Nina Turner on the floor, who I don't believe I voted the same with her, but a few times. But she had one bill that was a great bill for all of Ohio, and I agreed with her and said on the floor, I don't usually agree with Nina, but I love her passion. But on this one, she's right, and she's a champion. And I think that is what we need in politics. I'm not saying that we all have to get along, because I don't expect that. But it also taught me not to take it personally. I don't take the attacks personally. And if you do, you can destroy yourself and start getting real self-conscious, and I don't think that's what we're supposed to do. I think we're supposed to lead with our heart and do the best we can and let the chips fall. And people will say, well, we disagree with you. And so I get that. I mean, I'm only knowledgeable of what has been bestowed upon me over my years in education and living to be 58 and almost 59. And those experiences have to play in. But I just think the idea of really getting along, I think, is extremely important. And try to be as inclusive as you can, but, you have to draw some lines.
So here, you're state senator in the Findlay...
Findlay House, my hometown. I have 11 counties.
11 counties. How far north is that?
I'll name them all real quick.
Can you?
All of Williams, all of Defiance, all of Paulding, all of Van Wert, some of Fulton, all of Henry, all of Putnam, all of Hancock, all of Hardin, most of Auglaize, and a smidgen of Logan. Yeah, and then I'm chairman of the Ag Committee in the Senate, which means I'm responsible as a member of the Board of Commissioners for the State Fair to be involved with the State Fair. So I really had 12 fairs, which I tell everybody I was skinny before I got this job, but elephant ears kind of pile up over the years.
Did you sleep in the barn at the
I did not do that. No, I did not.
Haven't done that
No,
yet.
I have not done
Did
that.
the governor do it?
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
He's got daughters that have allergies, so that he's got an out. But I was never asked. If I'm asked, I'll do it.
I think Strickland did it, didn't he?
Strickland did do it.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, wow. Anything on the horizon for you in terms of, bills coming up that you've put forward or legislation, anything that my listeners might be interested in?
I think the toughest call right now is the Medicaid expansion call, because some of that money goes for things that I don't want it to go for. But we have people that have drug addictions and mental illnesses that could slip through the cracks and not be helped. And I don't like to see that. And some people say, well, you sound like a bleeding heart Republican. And I go, well, I care about people. And I don't think our party always has that moniker. I think people don't think we care, and we do. And I want us to do something that help people, but there's only so much you can do. I don't like the federal government telling us what to do. I'll be honest with you. And so we're in a conundrum right now. We don't really know exactly what we're going to do, but there are people that need our help. And I want to be able to make sure we can do that.
And we will be right back after the break.
Have you ever driven over a pop can? Well, when a train collides with a car, it has the same force as a car running over a pop can. Obey the warnings at railroad crossings. Don't try to beat the train. Ohio's roads can be highways or dieways. The choice is yours. A message from Operation Lifesaver.
Do you pray for a politician? Do you think a politician can be a Christian? Do you think a politician should stand up for Christian principles? Do you think politicians should pray together? Do you want to see more Christians in politics? If you said yes to any of these questions, please join the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network. Find the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network on Facebook. Welcome back to Politically Wise. Contact me at politically.wise@gmail.com. Anything else that's on the horizon?
Well, I think that, as I shared with you before we did this, there's a verse that I've always enjoyed, and it's in 2 Chronicles 16:9. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. And it's always been a strength for me. It's always allowed God incidences to come into my life and recognize them, like bumping into you in the Senate today, which I'm not supposed to be here today, but we bumped into each other to get to talk about what we're talking about. And I think that's a God incidence. And He's helped me recognize those more often, because I am fully committed to Him. Well, I try to be. I have my doubts.
By God's grace.
But yes, by God's grace, absolutely. But it's been an incredible experience. And I think this is where God wants me to be.
What advice would you give somebody who wants to get into politics, maybe follow in your footsteps?
Well, I would tell them not to come in with a specific agenda. And I know that's hard to explain, because that's why a lot of people do this. But it's so vast and big and huge, and it's awesome. It's so big. that if you come in here with just a specific agenda, you might miss the rest. And I think it's good to come in and listen. It was not a skill of mine, trust me, but it became one. Well, you have to really listen to hear what's going on and how you do things and learn it, because you can't know everything about everything here. So you have to listen and depend on a lot of people. And then you have to be able to discern what is the correct thing. And sometimes I miss the boat, but you have to judge a lot of people and hope that they're giving you the right advice and stuff. So I would say come in without the agenda, although, again, most people come in because of an agenda, and I get that. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have to have a cause, or you don't have to have a belief structure, or you don't have to have a foundation that you definitely think that you want to save children, or you want to save amendment rights, or whatever they are. Absolutely. I think that's unbelievably important. But you also have to listen, because there are people in all walks of the Republican Party and in all walks of the Democratic Party that have ideas that need to be listened to, whether you agree or not. And the one thing I did find out, and this will surprise people that get in for the first time, I haven't met one person here in the General Assembly that doesn't care as much about Ohio as I do. I always thought I cared more than anyone else, but they all do too. They just think about it in a different way. And that's what you have to work out.
How do you handle all the distractions, all the voices, all these opinions that you come across? How do you think clearly through all this?
Well, I think you have to stay rooted in your faith, but I also think you have to have people around you that can keep you harnessed in. And that's why I have just 2 staff members. I got Ruby and Chris. We have some others that volunteer in here that know me inside and out. And they keep me focused. They keep me on the narrow path, the right path, as much as possible. And I think that's important. You got to have people that make you accountable, that tell you, you're going here, you're going there, you shouldn't. Here's where you need to go. Here's how you need to think. Or you might want to think like this or consider this, and that helps. You can't do it by yourself. It's this job is big enough to be handled by people. Don't get me wrong, but you need input from others too. And then you just got to hope that you're throwing out the bad stuff and hanging on to the good stuff as much as possible.
Is there anything you want to say that I haven't thought to ask you?
Good night. Yeah, do I want to keep doing this?
Yeah, do you want to keep doing this?
Yeah, I do. I think that it's become my classroom. I used to be a teacher. It's become my, in a way, my church. I used to pray to God to be a minister. I wanted to be a minister so badly when I was growing up. And I realized that my calling was teaching. And it was a ministry. And that when God allowed me to do this, my classroom went from about 30 kids per classroom to about 355,000 people. It's a pretty big classroom. And it's really fun. And it's a gift. It really is a gift. And I thank God about that gift every day, because you walk around here and it's just a privilege to be here. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. So that's why I enjoy it.
Well, thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.
Glad we could do this. Again, this is Reverend Thomas Wise. I'm interviewing Cliff Hite in his Senate offices at the Ohio State House, and the show is called Politically Wise.
I got to add one thing.
Okay.
If you were going to be a comic, would it be Wisecracks? That's all right.
I like that. Thank you very much. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Do you pray for a politician? Do you think a politician can be a Christian? Do you think a politician should stand up for Christian principles? Do you think politicians should pray together? Do you want to see more Christians in politics? If you said yes to any of these questions, please join the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network. Find the Ohio Prayer Caucus Network on Facebook. Welcome back to Politically Wise. The show is titled Politically Wise, and I am your host, Reverend Thomas Wise. Thank you for listening today. If you want to email me, you may do so at politically.wise@gmail.com. Please like us on our Facebook page, Politically Wise. Now, here's your blessing. Blessings based on Deuteronomy 28, verses 3 through 7. May God bless you in the city. May God bless you in the country. May God bless the fruit of your labors. May God bless you when you come in. May God bless you when you go out. May God cause your enemies to flee in 7 directions.